Hello, everybody. Today we are discussing the only resort that makes people park at an abandoned airport, Breckenridge. For those of you who are not familiar with the series, here are the rules. The two of us have each come up with 5 improvements or enhancements that we believe would significantly ameliorate the issues of the resort. We don't know what each other is proposing yet. Could be something as absurd as a high-speed rail line or entire base village, or something as mundane as a new magic carpet or parking garage. This is all hypothetical, meaning we don't think too terribly hard about permissions or money, although those are considered in most projects. We're going to critique and question as we go, and at the end, you all will put your thoughts down in the comments below, along with telling us whose plan is better. Based on the comments section of each video in the series, we will keep score over time to see who is the better planner according to the people. Simple enough? Alright, let's begin. All right, currently the score is 1 for me and none for Arjun. So being that you're down, Arjun, you get to pitch first.
Cool. So for my first project, I have a chairlift that starts at the bottom of Peak 6 and extends up to right below the South Cole area. And this is going to service a lot of new intermediate terrain, which we'll talk about in a second.
Okay, so you said this is a high-speed quad, yes?
Yeah, this is going to be a high-speed quad. Yeah.
So for me, looking at the topographic, it looks like it's running directly up a ridge, which is exactly what Kensho does, and we know Kensho has wind problems.
Mhm.
So why the quad?
I don't think you. Okay, I understand that a six pack is going to be a lot more wind resilient than a quad, but I'm not sure that it's going to. You need that kind of capacity to have this project still be like effective.
So a six-pack can achieve a capacity of 2,400 people per hour, which is the capacity of a standard high-speed quad. If the
Mhm.
high-speed quad is loading every 6 seconds, the six-pack is loading every 9 seconds, gives
Right.
people more time to organize
Right.
themselves, get up
Right.
to the line. So that's why
Right.
you see a lot of ski resorts nowadays are just doing six-packs, and very
Mhm.
few are actually installing new high-speed
Quads.
quads, even when they don't need the capacity per se.
Gotcha. See, this is why
Other
we
than
have the lift guy on the channel. He gets to enlighten me about all this cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, this was kind of in the original master plan for Peak Six, so I like the concept. Yeah.
Cool. And kind of leading on that project, I have a bunch of new trails kind of going under the lift. The ones that kind of stick out is I'm trying to, I proposed a trail that's going from the top of this new lift all the way to Peak 7 without having you go all the way down and to Lost Horizon. I'm hoping this relieves some lines off of Freedom and lets you just kind of get back to Peak 7 and 8 more directly. But yeah, just a bunch of cool intermediate trails that will hopefully relieve Peak 7 as well, because the terrain that this lift services and the Peak 7 terrain are pretty similar.
Yeah, and I mean, exactly what I just said. It was originally in the master plan. It's just kind of a thing they haven't really gotten around to doing
Right.
because they've had more pressing issues. So overall, I think it's a great project. You increase your intermediate terrain, which is what Breckenridge is already known for. I think maybe a six-pack would be better there, but
Sure.
overall, great project.
Cool. Sounds good.
Okay. When I wrote this, I wrote in here that I was 99% sure that you would also have this project, but I'm proposing a high-speed quad for six chair. And I had to come up with a clever name for this because to fit in with Colorado and Rocky Mountain, I'm proposing to call this one the Continental Divide Superchair, or just CD Superchair for short. And it's simple. A lot of people want to go to Imperial. That backs up the T-bar in the existing six chair. So this problem solves that. It also appeases one of the biggest complaints from expert skiers. So I feel like it's a pretty obvious project and one that should have been done before now.
How do I start this? I basically want to say like mostly I think this is good. Like this is I mean it's in my plan as well. My one concern when going with this lift was that hey, would this encourage more like lower level skiers because there's a quad going up to Imperial now? Would this encourage more like lower level skiers to just kind of go up and with that increased lines of Imperial?
That is the major concern, because to get to Imperial looks quite appealing to lower level skiers, but they just can't get there because they don't want to ride a T-bar or things like that. But then you also watch people actually trying to load the T-bar, and you're like, I don't think it makes that big of a difference when you
Right.
see the population that's trying to get on that T-bar. It's painful to watch.
No, totally. Yeah, I think this is a great project, and I really hope they implement this soon because, yeah, as I said, the six terrain is really, really cool. So, yeah. Okay, so my next project is six chair. I don't have to say anything else. It's the exact same project as you.
Yeah, I mean, simple enough. It's, you know, elaborating, I assume this goes for both of us.
Yep.
It's twofold because that ride gets long and cold and windy. And
Right.
so that makes it a lot quicker, a lot nicer,
Yep.
and it gets more people to Imperial.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
we both had that concern of like, oh, are a bunch of people then gonna overcrowd the trails in the 6 chair pod? And
Yep.
no, because they see this big bad bowl above them, they're gonna want to go up there. You
Exactly.
know, they're not gonna want to ski the 6 chair stuff.
Yeah, they're gonna want to ride the highest chair in North America. Why would you suffice for six when you could just go for that, right?
All right. This next project is ambitious to say the least, and there are a ton of issues with the project, and I'm willing to admit that. But what I've done is I've built a gondola directly onto the mountain from the airport parking lot. I had to avoid going directly over houses, which I was able to do, but that required a mid station. It also can't start directly in the parking lot, but it's not a far walk away.
Mhm.
The big thing about this is so many people park in the airport parking lot. And the goal with this project would be to keep the airport parking lot free, although I'm guessing it would not, but it could be cheaper. Right now, if you park in the airport parking lot, you got to walk over to a shuttle stop, take the shuttle, then wait in the Breckenridge gondola line. Whereas this eliminates all of that. You walk over to the gondola, you're out, you're on peak 7. Boom, done.
Okay, right. Okay, so I've never actually parked at Breckenridge before, honestly. I've only ever stayed at a hotel, so I'm probably the least qualified person to grill you on this. So yeah, I don't really have much to say other than, yeah, I didn't expect that that airport parking lot would actually be a used place. It sounded like a joke in the haters guide, and that's about all the context I have about it. So I'll take your word that it's actually like it'll be a substantial improvement. I think adding another gondola is definitely a great idea, and if that seems to be one of the more popular parking spots at Breck, then I think it totally makes sense.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of pressure off Breck Connect. And
Yeah,
the only issue is it puts a ton more people at peak 7, but I've addressed that later on.
cool. All right, so my next project is going to be an 8-pack lift starting at the current Beaver Run bottom terminal. It's going to extend up to the current Mercury bottom terminal, and it's going to effectively replace both lifts, and then it's going to extend all the way up to the top of Mercury. And that mid station is going to be load only. So, yeah, this will effectively replace both lifts, as I mentioned, and I think it'll go a long ways to improving circulation on Peak 9 as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very intriguing project. So I figure you're factoring in that C chair 6 pack. So you'll basically have a 6 pack and 8 pack rather than two quads and a double. So I
Yeah.
think altogether that should come out to about the same capacity, which is good because you don't want to get too crowded on those trails. And the lines generally don't get horrible at those lifts. Um, but overall, I think it's a really good project. The only issue, you might have to cut a few more trees just around the top of Little Burn or whatever it's called, because that area could get crowded with an 8 pack. But I think it's a great project overall. For my third project, I have something very similar to what you proposed for your first. It's kind of that lift that was proposed in the original Peak 6 master plan, but I've done it a little bit differently. I've started it right next to the bottom of Freedom, and it runs up just to below South Cole. Now, it has only one main groomer to go with it, but that would be a super wide, super fun rolling groomer. It would have another groomer that cuts over to Peak 6 to Delirium, and then another one that would cut back over to Peak 7 to Monte Cristo. And then also to keep Monte Cristo and Angel's Rest from getting too crowded, I have a traverse that would go over to that main groomer.
Yeah, I this is pretty similar to my project, and I don't think there's yeah, even though the base is moved down to Freedom, I don't really think there's effectively that much of a difference. So yeah, I have no critiques to give with this project. I think it'll be really nice to have this alternative to Peak 7, especially with how just horribly congested Peak 7 gets, and you now have a terrain pod that's very similar, that's just adjacent to it. So yeah, I love this project.
And the one major difference is you had a lot more cut runs. I like leaving all this as a nice little glade area. You know, you have the one major, major groomer and then the rest is just glades because that's kind of what Breckenridge is struggling with. So if they could thin that out, that would be perfect.
I guess my only concern was that with that is that delirium would get super congested. But I'm hoping because you have seven, peak seven as well, that won't be too much of an issue because the crowds will be well distributed.
Yeah, I mean, they'll distribute across all three of those groomers because all three of those groomers offer an exit from the pod. And if you've ever skied Delirium before, like it's rare you'll actually run into anyone while on that trail. So like it's practically empty as is. So I'm not overly concerned.
Okay, for my fourth project, I'm just proposing an upgrade to the current Breck Connect gondola. Because Breck added the parking garage, that whole area is going to be a lot busier because a lot more people are parking there, a lot more people are loading the gondola. So, yeah, I'm just any capacity upgrade is going to go a long ways to helping this lift.
There's a lot of things standing between the Breckenridge gondola just getting upgraded. Money is one of them. To build a gondola that has two mid stations, I mean, what did the Palisades Tahoe gondola cost? $65 million?
5 mil, yeah, 65 mil.
That was an 8-person gondola with a low capacity. You want to build a high capacity gondola with two mid stations. That's going to run you north of $100 million. Another issue, this peak 7 mid station is quite tight. It's a very tight turn and there's not a ton of space there. You build a bigger gondola, you build a bigger terminal. You need bigger turns. So that's also an issue. You're running the lift second stage over Cucumber Gulch Wildlife Preserve. You would need bigger towers. You would have to do bigger foundations, redo all that. Not sure who runs that, if that's Forest Service or what, but I can't imagine any of them being super keen on that. So, I think it'd be an awesome project if you could do it, but it's just there's space constraints and
I will say that by the rules of the master plan thingy, what was this series called again? How We Would Fix It. I have the ability to do whatever I want. So all logic is thrown out the window, so therefore this is valid. I have nothing else to say. Cut that shit out.
fair enough. This is not getting cut. This is going straight into the video.
No.
No, but but I I think augmentation is a better strategy, like what I did with the airport gondola, but I see what you're getting at and what you're trying to address, and it is a valid concern.
Right. No, I think the airport gondola is just a better version of kind of what I was thinking about. It's just thought out a lot better. So yeah, I would also probably end up going with that if I thought through this a second time.
For my fourth project, I'm proposing taking the airport, that land that used to be an airport way back in the day, and turning it into an actual airport. Kidding. I am proposing to take the Independence Super Chair and turn it into an 8-person chairlift with an absolutely mammoth capacity for two reasons. One, the lift is starting to get a little bit on the older side. This is all factoring in the airport gondola. So if this lift goes down, now everybody from the airport gondola somehow has to squeeze onto the Breck Connect gondola. That ain't gonna fly. Second, you have all these people from the airport gondola who want to get on Independence. So we're gonna make it bigger, we're gonna make it wider. Right now, theoretically, you have a capacity of 3,000 people per hour, but with the amount that lift stops, it doesn't achieve that. 8-pack, bigger loading interval, design capacity of 3,600 people per hour, you're going to be a lot closer to achieving that with an 8-pack with a bigger load interval than a 6-pack with a 3,000.
Yeah, I think this is overall a really cool project. I think any additional capacity towards Peak 7 is going to go a long ways to fixing that project, that area. The one concern I would have would be the whole top area, given that it's an 8-seater lift, is now going to get super congested because you have all the Freedom traffic coming down, and now you have this 8-seater lift, and that place is already super busy at the top. So with this upgrade, I feel like that area is going to get super busy. So would you? Wait, how do
I think probably carried with this project would be a significant amount of excavation work, and how we would do it is it would be what's called a contour unload. So you come in, and instead of unloading straight, you come in, the chair turns, and then you unload. And that's going to bring everybody off to the looker's right side facing Pioneer Crossing. Then from there, they can hook back around to the other side to Claim Jumper, or they can just continue down all that stuff right there.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I think that's actually a really good solution for that. Yeah, cool. Okay, I think I'm gonna lose some people with this next proposal that I have, because I have the Horseshoe Bowl T-Bar being upgraded to a high-speed quad. And before I get absolutely demolished in the comments, The worst lift line I've experienced at a ski resort has been an hour at the T-bar because it went down, and then when it got back up, you had like 100 idiots in front of me trying to get on the thing. That thing is so old, it needs to be replaced. Just that one experience alone made me like want to replace it.
So here's my position on this, right? The T-bar cannot be replaced with a chairlift because it is so windy. That chairlift would not even operate 50% of the time. It cannot be replaced with a chairlift. There's not really any better surface lift you can replace it with. So my thought is we have 6-chair.
Mm-hmm.
If 6-chair is not enough, we're also going to have some new, shorter hiking routes from South Cole in both of our plans.
Mm-hmm.
Between those two projects, I should think that'll take enough people away from the T-bar, and those that are naive enough to still go to the T-bar, let them have it.
Fair enough.
So, in the Breckenridge master plan, and not even just the master plan, but their announcement of what they're doing in the next couple of years, they have this thing called the Frontier Gondola. Starts right next to Quicksilver and goes up to basically the top of a chair. So it really just doubles up capacity on all that green terrain. My proposal is instead of that gondola, we do this Frontier Gondola, but it opens a new expansion to increase beginner terrain and actually spread beginners out and give them more space to learn. And yes, there are a lot of issues with this. However, I think I've addressed the couple major ones by adding in a mid station to the gondola that'll allow you to just lap the upper half or to download and avoid the lower half.
I wish I thought of this project because this is a really cool idea and normally the thing I would have critiqued is that that last stretch is super flat and the snow is going to get really crappy, but because you have that mid station, you can just easily download it. And I think this is gonna, if this were implemented, this would totally change up the beginner experience at Breck because now you significantly relieve Quicksilver and then also the minimal traffic on Ripsa Ride, but mainly Quicksilver. So if this was implemented, I think this would be a game changer for the bottom of Peak 9.
Okay, that seems to wrap it up for proposals and challenges. Be sure to let us know who won down below, and of course, we would love to hear your guys' thoughts on our projects and what you would propose as well, so leave all that down below. As always, thank you all for watching. All our love, we're out.